But obviously, the main talking point of the evening, and obviously it's got around the last couple of days, which I've seen on social media today in particular, was the interview that Dean Brennan gave after the game about, the supporters moaning about what's going on now. Me and Claire have had a little bit, of indifferent opinions on it, which I don't mind, because look, that's the thing. It's football at the end of the day, isn't it? Now, I was in more of the view of, like, I thought it was actually quite a refreshing interview, to be fair, because, look, in the position that Barnet are in at the moment, I would be quite annoyed if I was Dean Brennan and you've got supporters all around you moaning at things when, look, they've, as I think he said, I mean, in the clip I saw on Twitter, they didn't give the full context of it. The fact that I think they said this is the 6th game in the row they've not had a designated striker. Now, Nicky Kabamba, got onto the playoffs last year because he is one of the most deadly strikers at this level. And, he was a big part. And the fact they haven't had him for the last few weeks has been a big problem for them. But they're still ticking off the wins. And, for a club like Barnet, who, as Steve Brennan said, they're going to get in on as a pause. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think everything he said in there was perfect, to be fair. I think some of it could have been worded better. But I found it quite refreshing, the fact that he was actually able to say, look, I'm not going to take that, from sports thing. Look, I came in here, we were bottom of the league when I joined, and now he's been consistently in the playoff area for the last, 2 or 3 years. And, for a club of the limited resources they get and the lack of people they get to go and watch him, I think he's done an incredible job there. And I think for people to say that, he's still, I mean, I probably know it's only probably a few supporters that are probably doing it. It's not a big majority of them. But I just thought that I think he was right to voice his frustrations and that, just because of the situation that Barnet are in. Though, if they were near the relegation zone, I would be going, yeah, okay, probably what they're doing right now. But whilst he's got supporters on his side, and I think, to be fair, a lot of their supporters have backed his interview and said, you know what, I think he's 100% on the money here. There's going to be a few that disagree, of course, but I just find it refreshing because it's not the typical, bollocks that we hear from a lot of managers that basically sound like robots, and doing interviews. It's nice to hear that sort of view that managers want to share their frustrations. So, yeah, that was my take on it, to be honest. I know Claire had a different take on it, that's for sure. Lately, either way.
I know, that's why I like the fact that we could talk about it and not be like hating on each other. And I know sometimes football opinions do become a little bit more like feisty. But we love each other to bits, Ben. No, I thought I didn't mind some of what he was saying, but I felt it came across as really aggressive. And I understand the frustration. And obviously, last season I was always like a Charlie in, and people were Charlie out. And look, we went on to win the league. Like, what does that say? Like, but yeah. I think the way he came across was so aggressive that I would literally be like, who the fuck do you think you are? And I'd not go. Like, I genuinely would stay away. And yeah, it just didn't sit right with me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with calling people out. I just thought he'd done it a bit over the top, to be honest.
Yeah, I would probably say that is the case. I think like some of it, like, it's all about building carrots and that sort of thing, like directing the camera. And I was a bit like, oh god, yeah, he's getting a bit, aggressive over it. But I think I like the fact that he said, like, look, if supporters want to come back to, come talk to me about it, my office is open. We can have a cup of tea. We can have a chat about it. And you won't get that from managers in the Premier League and that, because at the end of the day, this is still non-league football, and people can still have that connection with the with the players and the management and that. And the fact he's willing to talk about it, with supporters. And to be fair to Dean Brennan, like, look, it has put him in, in a bit of a situation where, like, obviously he's been under a bit of pressure, I guess, from a few people, because, like I say, sometimes we see, that things happen like this. Does it mean that there's something going wrong at the club at the moment, and he's just trying to voice out his frustrations or whatever? But just from my perspective, because we see so many managers that, there's so many problems going on at the club, they don't want to address it. They always rather focus on what's going on the pitch. But I think for a manager to come out like that, at this stage of the season, very early on, to say, look, our performances have been really good. And, look, at the end of the day, the results speak for themselves. I mean, they've only lost, I think, 1, maybe 2 games so far. They're the only team to beat Forest Green so far as well, which is no easy feat by any stretch of the imagination. And look, like, they're in a good place in Oban. They're only 2 points off the top. And if I was, if this was happening in Mason, I would be really annoyed at supporters, thinking, look, we're doing really well. Why are people getting annoyed about this? And obviously, I said, obviously, we know, obviously, we had a chat about it as well. I think, look, George Edekobi was in that situation where, he basically criticised our supporters and it went down really badly. And the difference in that was because, we were sitting just above relegation. We were not winning games. We were playing such poor football. And, everyone had their own right to have a pop. But I think, I found it in a situation of saying, look, if I was told at work that I was, I knew I was doing a really good job and that, and I was doing a good job, but I still had people criticise me for what I did, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to have that from people. And that's the way I sort of try to read it a little bit, because, at the end of the day, look, I know the supporters, it's their money, and I get that it's their voice of view. If they're not happy with what they're seeing, then obviously they will voice their opinions. Of course they have to. But I just think, I think I'd be a bit hard done by if I was Dean Brennan, because look, he's building something really good there, and he hasn't got all the backing from everyone in the town. I think if everyone starts to come out for Barnet, I think they would have gone up last year. But the fact is they haven't got the backing, and I think where the stadium is, it's in the middle of technically nowhere, so they haven't got that backing. And if they did get 2,000 or 3,000 coming in every week, then who knows where they might have been last year.
Think about it in this way as well then. If you live in Barnet or you live close by and you see a manager of a football club speaking that way, do you think that's going to entice people in?
No. Yeah, I think to be fair, look, I think that is a fair point. I think, but again, I think a lot of supporters, and I don't know if it's true, because I think a few of them have said that a lot of them stayed away because they don't like the ground. And to be fair to a lot of people, I will agree on that, because I've been there a couple of times to the Hive, and it isn't the best of, match day experiences, if you like, because it is a soulless stadium, and so that's the thing. And I get it from his frustration, that is probably hard to be. And also, they do charge quite a bit for people to come in, to be fair. So to be fair, that was one of the points I did take. For maybe that could have been worded slightly better, because it's not an easy, payday to go out to buy. And I think they charge £20 a ticket. So I was a bit like, that's asking a bit much. And to be fair, I don't know if this was on the back of what was said in the interview, but I think they're charging for their next home game against Fylde. I think it's a £5 for everyone to get in, which I think is an incredible gesture, to be fair, because what clubs, at National League level, or even, that level below, having to charge for a £5 to come in to watch a, 5th tier game, it doesn't happen so often. So, a massive credit to Barnet, because, they might have received a bit of stick from that, but that's the thing. And Dean Brennan will be putting the pressure in his play, saying, look, we've got these extra people coming in. We want to put on performance. We want them to come back. So that's the thing. If he can prove it then by all means, then we'll see where it takes him. So, yeah, it was an interesting one. I liked it personally, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's the beauty of football. It's all a game of opinions, isn't it?
This is it. There we go. So you can have a respectable football conversation, having two sides, and with friends.
That's how football arguments should go. That's the thing, rather than just get all aggy about it, isn't it?
Get out, you
This is it. The sort of discussion you don't get on Twitter in a back and forth on a regular basis. Yeah, feisty interview. To be fair, feisty interview. I hadn't seen it when you two were talking about it, so I checked it out afterwards, and I did think there was just a bit where I thought he's on the verge of, I thought he's on the verge of losing control, and I thought he's kind of lost control a little bit here. He wanted to be on that cusp, and I think he just kind of went a bit further off. I just think, as a manager, you've always got to have that element of control, and it's once you go down that path with supporters, it's very, very rare that then you can kind of turn that back. Even if it's a portion of supporters, I think it's just a dangerous road to kind of to go down, even if you feel you've got it. As I say, I like some of the passion, I like some of the honesty of it. Particularly as I've got a manager, I can't understand what he's on about half the time. So it's nice to see. But just maybe, that control bit got a little bit too far. And I wonder whether maybe he's thinking that a little bit too much. But it's done now, so he's got to live with it.
I felt sorry for the interviewer, to be honest, because he must have felt really awkward having to stand and listen to it. I mean, that's the thing. I've been in that situation where obviously maybe not most interviews haven't quite gone like that, but it's almost like, they come up with something unexpected. You go, I don't actually know what to say to them next. That's the thing, because they're going on a tangent. You want to try and bring it back to the game, but full well they don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about that. So it's quite hard to bring it back. And that's the thing. And I would have felt really sorry for the interview. I had to deal with that. But again, he's probably trying to keep him on his side a little bit. He was probably trying to take it away, but he thought, okay, look, if this is what he wants to say, then let him say it. Because then the thing, they could have easily edited that out. That's the thing. They could have easily done that. But the fact he said, look, no, I want that to stay in because I want supposed to see it, for real. So, yeah, and then that's something Dean Brennan will have.
Like the other thing in it, don't forget, like, is calling people out that go for not buying stuff when they're there, like food and sweets and whatever. It's about £3 for a packet of sweets that you can get in the shop for £1. Like, make your prices more reasonable, and people might buy it.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know whether because the part of this £5 thing they might discount prices. I dare say they won't, to be honest with you. But I get it from that point of view, because you can't force supporters to spend money in the stadium. That's the thing. It's like, look, some people might go and they want to go for a couple of pints, but I don't know if I don't think there's many pubs around that area anyway where the ground is currently. But I don't think that was quite the right path to go on, really, because in the day, look, I think they're not going to get it from just beer sales. They need more people to come in, and again, I think that's maybe where I think, look, if you could have worded it a little bit better, then it might entice people to come in. So it will be I will be interested. I will be keeping a close eye on that file game to see how much of a crowd do come in for that, because if they stay up there, over the next couple of weeks, then people might think, oh, actually, they're doing really well. I might want to go and watch them. It's only a £5 to get in, and who knows what might happen after that. So he's got a bit of pressure coming towards him, Dean Brennan, the next couple of weeks. So he's got to make sure that it's not all just words from him, and that he can, just keep getting the results for Barnet.
I hope he's buying the sweets as well. You've got to stick by your word. Pick up your Haribos, Dean. Pick up your Haribos.